I am just going to cut out my batting. Since I'm going to work it two different ways. Okay. Hello, everyone. We are just going to do a simple project today. We're going to work on a quilted tote for the holiday season that clearly I cannot cut straight. So we will trim just a little bit of this edge off, even though it really doesn't matter. Let's trim it up at the end because I may have to do some things. Okay. So I'm going to start with this. Hi, love bug. How are you doing today? Cece. Woo! We learned to put them glasses on, I'd be able to see. Okay, my iron is hot. Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple different options for what I'm thinking of for this tote. Let's get rid of the receipt. So I have this black fabric. And if this were the bottom of the tote, let's do it this way, just so you can see it. Maybe I'll flip this just a little bit to the right. All right. Okay, that didn't make it much better, did it? Why am I know why. Because it's mirrored. Okay, let me turn that just a little straight. Okay, cool. That's a little bit better. Okay. So what I'm thinking, I have tons of holiday fabric in my stash, and what I'm doing, hey Anna J. So there's a couple things with this, and I'll talk about this in a second. So this is what I'm thinking about. So if I have this as the bottom, and then I have this as the top. Easy way, thank you for the heart me. So this is the easy way to do this quilted bag that I'm gonna do. It could be done a ton of different ways, and we'll discuss some possibilities as we go. So as you can see, there is plenty of this fabric. So I probably have about a good 2-3 yards of this. And because I always have, hey Sabs, because I always have black fabric, I have this as well. Thank you. I love it. Me and Christmas fabric is really a thing. So I have plenty to do what I need to do, along with some other projects. However, there's also a possibility, and I'm not going to do it necessarily tonight, but just to show you, I have in my stash, thank you for getting your daily heart me. In my stash, I have what could be considered orphan blocks, or what they also could be considered are just blocks. These are swap blocks. So I have half square triangles that I need to figure out what I'm going to do with them. Hey Shamir, what I'm going to do with these half square triangles, but I have a ton of half square triangles that I'm not going to use for this. And I am looking for the orphan blocks, or the blocks. So these blocks are from probably 2012. They're from 2012. And they are all my Christmas blocks. And these were all like disappearing 9 patches. And then there were some different types of blocks that were in here. This one is one of my faves, right? So we'll even look at this one for a second. They each came from a different place, and the person had the opportunity to pick out a block that they thought that I might like. And this was Christmas, so there are all sorts of different blocks here. Some of these blocks I am in love with, and some of these blocks not so much. Like this one I love. And I love it just because it says joy. This is one of my favorite blocks to make. And I said 2010, so it was 2011 because here's the 2011 block. Here's another 2011 block. Okay. This one was very scrappy. So I'm just going through because I'm looking for something in particular that I would like to use. And what I'm thinking about for these blocks is what can I use that I won't be mad about later because I didn't use it in a bag or something. So this is a block here that I like. They embroidered Merry Christmas on there. And what I like about this is like it's all different kinds of colors and things like that. But if we imagine that this is an orphan block, what we can do is create a border around this block and make this the center of what could be our bag. So for our bag, what we're doing is we're going to decide the dimensions for the bag. And I've decided that mine is going to be about 18 by 16. It'll be about 18 inches tall and about 16 inches wide. And I can lay out this however I want it to show up on the bag. And you will see that there's not much room there beyond that. So again, you can decide if you want to use regular fabric or you could use an orphan block. And what we're going to do is do both just so you can see it because I don't mind mixing and matching things up. So what I need to do first, after I've decided the dimensions of my bag, I want to give this a good press because this has been sitting in my stash for a while. Hey Donna, how are you doing, darling? Am I missing? Right, that's what I was thinking, like this could be the front of the bags. And so I'm thinking, and then the back could be something else. So we can take the two. I'm glad to hear you're hanging in. I know this is a difficult time of year for you, especially with it being the holidays, and my prayers still go out to you and your family. So what I want to do is just give this a good press. Just to knock some of the existing wrinkles out. And then you can make a decision if you are using regular batting or if you are using fusible batting. If you're using fusible batting, you need to be careful because if you iron on the batting itself or on the fleece, it's going to stick to your iron. So slide that over just a little bit. And I'm going to use a partial quilt as you go method. So I just want to make sure that everything is nice and even. So from the bottom, and I can square this up a little bit if needed. So usually you start with a little bit bigger of a piece and then you can square it to the measurements that you need. So I want to measure from the bottom. And I'm going to measure each side. I want that just about even. Okay. Now, because this is going to be the front and it's going to be a quilt as you go, I am going to go ahead and hit this with the iron. And again, make sure that I'm not going over the edge because I don't want the iron to stick to the fusible fleece. And I just need it to hold in place. I don't need a lot. So now I have 2 inches on this side, on either side. It looks like I have about 2 inches down at the bottom, and I have about 4 inches up the top. That's so that I have some spillover. So I'm going to use my black fabric to frame this out. And again, this is great. So if you are practicing as a new quilter, sometimes we'll practice a block. And when we're practicing the block, we are, you know, maybe we're not going to make 20 more blocks like it. And so if we're not going to make 20 more blocks like it, I just need to press this out a little bit. I pressed the other black fabric, not this one. Then I changed my mind. If we're working on something and then we have that one block, and then we decide, you know what, I'm gonna make a quilt. I'm over that one block, especially if you have worked with half square triangles, because sometimes they can be a lot. And when you're making those half square triangles, you are over it, and you might say one and done. So then what do I do with that block? Or if you are making several blocks and that one oddball block didn't look the way you wanted it to for the quilt, but you still want to use that block some sort of way, using it in a, let's say, pillow, a decorative pillow, or using it as the front of a tote bag, is actually absolutely a great way to use up orphan blocks. And somewhere is my other ruler. So we are, and my other rotary cutter, but I am not going to get it. So I'm going to use this one. I'm going to line everything up. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, because you know what? I'm going to square it up anyway. So I said 2, 2, and then 4 and 2, 2, 4, and so then so I'm going to do 3. I'm going to do 3, 3, because I'd rather square it up, and then I will do 4 and 3. So I need 3s and I need 4. So I'm just going to cut this, and you could use strips if you like, and I know somebody's going to come for me in the comments with how I just cut that. And I always have a use for strips, so I'm not even worried about how perfect this is, but this is also a great way to use a scrappy quilt, to make a scrappy quilt. Let's do this way. That was better. I know you won't come for me now. We'll set that black over there. And then remove this here. Hello, hello, hello. We are going to work on a quick quilted tote. I don't have to worry about my selvages. I do need to make sure that I have enough space top to bottom. Did I cut these the same size? Make sure I'm not crazy. Okay. And I can do either the sides first, or I can do the bottom and the top first. It doesn't matter. So I want to make sure that I have enough. And again, I'm going to square it up. So I'm just going to cut this off. And there's a simple quilt as you go method. I'm just going to lay this over the top. I want everything to be nice and smooth. And I will take this over to my machine, and I can either use my 1/4 inch foot, or I can use a regular foot, but I'm just going to sew a 1/4 inch from one side to the other. So I'm just working on the front of the bag. That didn't sound too promising. And again, this is a simple way for either your Christmas shopping or to use your blocks for simple gifts that you can give to a loved one during the holiday season, especially to somebody who loves to shop, because you can never have enough bags unless you live in my house. It is one of my favorite bows. I went on a shop hop and they had it and I was like, yes, this is coming home with me. It was a store in Jersey. For it was part of a New Jersey shop hop. It was called Urban Society. I don't know if they still have them or not. That I don't know. Okay, so everything is on this side. So let me pull this up. We're going over the edge because we'll square it up. And we're just going to press that out. Again, we're going to be careful because the sides are still exposed and we don't want this to stick to our iron. Now, if you have abused your iron over the years like I have, we are not worried that much about it because we have another one. But if I can help it, I don't want to waste an iron, so I'm not going to just damage it just to damage it. Okay. I am not putting the backing of this on like I would a quilt as you go quilt because I am going to use that backing as a lining, and I don't want to bind my edges because I hate doing that. So I am doing it this way to avoid some steps. So this is down and you can see it on the back. This is what I will cut off, and I'll still have a decent enough piece that I'll be able to use it for something else. Okay, and then we'll take that second piece and again line it up. I have a little spilling over each side, that's fine, and then we'll stitch this. I am delirious right now. I just, forewarned. Today I had the bright idea to take the students on a skating trip. And because I try to be the cool assistant principal, of course, I got the skates out and I was on the roller skating rink skating. Them kids almost made me fall. But it was a great time and the kids enjoyed themselves. And I had to tell them, I was like, coming through. Like, look, I haven't been on roller skates in over 20 years. Thank you. Is that a kit? No. So this is not a kit. This is, so I have a good, when I like to do stuff, I like to do things that are from leftovers or that are in my stash so that I do get the stash down. Contrary to popular belief, I do use my stash. I know that there's some people who will come for me and say that I don't because I do spend a lot of time in the store. But I do use my stash. Okay. So the front and the top are done. Again, this is a block that I had from a block swap. Because of the blues in it, right? I love this block, but it wasn't gonna work with the other blocks because of the blue. I love it, but most of the other blocks are just golds and reds and greens, and whites. So this one didn't go. So this is gonna make a great tote bag, or it could make a great pillowcase cover. So you could use this for a lot of different reasons. So if you're looking at it and you say to yourself, you know what, I would rather use that as a pillow, you absolutely could. Again, I use single blocks for pillowcase covers as well. Okay, so I need to, again, just measuring, and I can eye it. And I'm just going to cut that in half. Again, I can use strips. I found the store, but sadly they didn't seem to have any bow stickers. Oh, did you call them or did you look online? Because, you know, don't be looking online. And, you know, and I would call them just because if they had them and they could get them back in, then they'll absolutely tell you, you know, how they can get them or where they got them from. Because they're a really great shop. I know. There's somebody in the comments that's going to be like, girl, where are your pins? I'll need them. But if you feel the need to lay them down with pins, knock yourself out. And part of that is because the pins are all the way over on the other side of the room and I don't feel like going to get them. Okay. So again, we're just doing our 1/4 inch. We're sewing from end to end. We're making sure that our strip is covering that block because there's nothing worse than for it not to catch. And you'll hear like it'll kind of thump a little bit. That's because there are, the way that they press the seams together, there were a lot of humps. There were a lot of places where it connected. Oh, thank you. Hey, sweetie. Okay, and we'll press all this at one time. So we're just gonna press this over, finger hand press this side, and then we're gonna do this side. And then all of the sides will be done for the front. Okay, and again, this is just taking any sort of orphan block that you may have constructed. It's laying around and you're like, I could make something out of this. You can absolutely make a pillow. You can absolutely make a tote bag with it. And the great thing about this is that the way that this is getting done, you are, again, quilting as you go. So we're using a quilt as you go method to lock this down so you don't have to do quite as much quilting over it if that's not what you want to do, or if you don't have the machine set up to do it the way that you would like to do it. Not everybody wants to sit there and sew line after line after line after line. When you're doing this. Okay. And again, this is just like either scrap fabric. I'm going to press everything out this way, and then that part will be done. Okay. And we'll have the front of the bag finished. And again, if this were a pillow for me, then the front of the pillow would be done. And all I would have to do is add the back, whatever I wanted that back to look like. So I could square up this, and let's say it was a 20 by 20, and then I could make the back the same size, sew everything up, birth it, stuff it, and then just whip stitch the end if that's what I chose to do. I could add an envelope method where I overlap two pieces and just make sure that the raw edge is turned under twice for the hem, or I could add a zipper. So if I were choosing to do a pillow or a pillowcase cover, then I could use any one of those methods. Okay. So we're just pressing down the border for this. So we're just bordering this to make it as big as we want. Again, you can decide if you wanted to make as many borders as you wanted. So if you had thinner strips in your stash, then you would just build it out until you covered the fleece or the binding that is underneath. Okay. And then once all of that is done, let me show you this part of it. You'll see here where it is quilted, as if you say, as I went along. I didn't do any of the center, so I can go back now at this point. I do want to change this foot, and I just want to stitch that down just a little bit. I don't have to do a lot of it. I don't have to do a lot of quilting because I'm not using it in such a way that it's going to disturb it much, but I do want to do it just to make sure it holds in place. So I'm just going to do a couple stitches in the ditch, and I can go right around. Let me take that off for a second. The first place I can go is all the way around this white square to stitch that down. I could go in some of these squares as well as the white, just to kind of stitch that, hold it in place. It also will depend on the type of batting you're using. Sometimes some battings you can use a wider space, and sometimes you can't. But a lot of that, like I said, is contingent upon making a quilt, not a pillow. So we're just stitching very close to the seam line. Needle down, turn. I am using white thread, so I'm choosing to stay in the white portion of this so that the stitches aren't too obvious. If I go along any of the other colors, you'll see the stitches, and it may or may not matter to you. If it doesn't matter to you, then you can absolutely sew on that fabric. And that's totally up to you. So I've gone all the way around here. I am going to go around the red just because I want to add a little bit more dimension. Again, this is totally up to you. How much of the stitching and addition you want to do. I just decided to go around the red. I'm not going to do too much more because I don't feel like it needs a lot of it. But if you feel like it takes away from what you're doing, absolutely, you can add more stitches to it. Did I go? I didn't go all the way around. So I'm just going all along the red. Making sure my needle is down. And I'm just pivoting and turning it. Hey, Miss Leah, thank you for getting your daily heart me. Thank you for the roses. And we're just traveling all the way around. And because you're stitching in the ditch, it's not taking you, like you're not thinking of a specific pattern that you have to use. I do want to travel. Where do I want to go? I did here, I did red. I want to get to this other red one, so I'm going to go back down to white again. Oops, to get to the other red. And then we're going to travel around. No, we did this part, so we're going to travel this way. I don't have to cross over twice if I don't have to. And I'm just going all the way around. And again, I did a little bit of quilt as you go. And now I'm just working on stitching in the ditch. to make sure that I'm just holding these down a little bit more, so that hopefully as I get some wear and tear on the bag, I'm not ripping up, and the fleece shouldn't rip up, but I'm not ripping up that fleece, so it'll hold together a lot better. 1, 2, okay. Did I do that one already? Wow, okay, I work faster than I think sometimes. Near the blue. Just to make sure that finish there. Okay. Now, ask me if, okay, I'm about to say, do you have your snips? I'm going to take that off. Have a good one, Miss Rosalind. Thank you for popping in. Okay. And let's see if you can see that. So you can see where I stitched on this side. This is going to be hidden, but it just kind of gave a little bit more security for this. Happy Tuesday. How are you doing, Monica? Okay, everything is there. Now I can take this, I'm going to flip it over, and I just want to square it up. And the reason why we don't square it up before we do the stitching, the quilting, is sometimes your fabric will move. It'll shift. And because it shifts, it may smush out of shape a little bit, and you don't want to have to go back and do work that you don't have to do. Monica, I am working on a quilt as you go bag, and I am using I used an orphan block and some fabric from my stash, and this is the front of the bag. Take all those little scraps out. I can save plenty of strip to use for something else. So I cut it big enough that, you know, I'm not throwing something away, but not small enough that I can't not use it again. Okay. And we'll go here. 1, 2. Sometimes it's a little off, and I do like to line my ruler up with my cutting mat so that I can see if it is off. Because if it is off, I need to get it right. And sometimes in getting it right, okay, it'd be nice if I straighten that up. Let me move this over just a little bit. Sometimes the cut is really good, and sometimes really good. Okay, good. Okay. So here we go. I will check just to make sure everything is good and straight. And if it is, so here is the block. It is fusible fleece, so it's ironed down. I have added all of the pieces around it. So this part is done. So now either the back, and so now I can either use the same thing for the back, or I can use something else for the front. How often do I replace the cutting mat? When I have to. So I probably just need to clean it, but yeah, that's not going to happen. So as long as it works, and it does, this is the big mat. It is self-healing, so I can kind of push out some of the grooves in it, and it'll be fine. My problem is that I use this ugly black material, and it got this little gritty, nasty look to it. So I probably could switch it out to a different one, but that would be too much like rain. Okay, so this is the front. And we're just going to set that over here. And then we're going to work on the back. So with the back, I need to make a decision on what I want to do. Do I want to use another piece of the black, or can I make it two-tone? That's totally up to me. So let's go ahead, for the sake of argument, and just make it two-toned. I mean, just make it all black, because I have plenty of fabric to do something else. So I'm going to 16 by 18. 18 I will get this way, so I am going to do 16. And when I say 16 by 18, that's the measurements that I started with for this. I'll square it up so that it fits the other one. But I just want to make sure that I don't go less than 16 by 18. I can't see it. 18. Yeah, I was trying not to. I didn't want to use like a harsh chemical on the mat and then it rubbed the numbers off. So I said, let me just leave it as it is. But as expensive as mats are, yeah, I'm not replacing it. On your pillows, do you put names on them? So I could, right? I did pillowcases one year for my cousins, and I absolutely embroidered their names on them. I have embroidered names on pillows, so I have done that, but it's not necessarily my go-to. Okay. I cut this 16 by 18, and I just want to make 4 one side, because we're just going to do something really quick with this. Again, this is not supposed to be something that takes forever. This is something that we can do real quick. Again, you can use, we're making a tote bag this evening, and we are using an orphan block to help create that. And again, an orphan block can be something different to different people. So if you are making a quilt and you make, the quilt calls for 16 blocks, and you make 17, the odd block is the orphan block. If you mess up one of the blocks, then the block you messed up could be the orphan block. Sometimes you put the half square triangles going in the wrong direction, and it doesn't look terrible. It just doesn't look like it's the oddball because it doesn't look like the rest of the blocks. And so you've got this pitiful little block out here that, you know, you would love to use for something, and it's all by itself. So it is an orphan block. And because it's a little orphan block, we want to give it a home, and we can give it a home by using it in a pillow or in a tote bag. I even have used blocks to create as a center of a jacket. So you can use these for any purpose. Okay, these are fusible fleece. So I am pressing my fabric. And I don't have to do a lot, because if I do some quilting to it, then I don't have to worry about like pressing the heck out of it. I just want the glue dots to stick enough so that I can move on. Okay. But again, so the orphan block can be just you made a block. So sometimes you will get on a tutorial and you want to know how to make, let's say, the Ohio Star or Anita's Arrowhead. And then once you've made it, you're like, Mew, I like the block, but I'm not going to use it for anything. So again, this is the only one that you made, just like an only child. It's sitting by itself, and you are saying that you're not going to use it for anything. You can absolutely use it for a tote bag. So even if you make a paper piece block, and you know it's not an orphan, it's just out there as a block that you want to use, you can absolutely create it to make that front the same way that I did. Okay, you're asking because you had a second. Oh, okay. My second granddaughter on Christmas. Oh, congratulations. Okay. So I have this pressed on, and you can see on the back that it's on there. It may not be 100% perfect, and it doesn't have to be, but right now it's there for the purpose in which I need it on there for. Okay. So again, this is your choice. You can decide whether this front stays the way that it does, or you can quilt it. That's up to you. I'm going to leave this as is, but understand over time, because this is glue and because there's heat, sometimes it will distort the bag. And that means like this will begin to separate. So it helps to quilt it because you avoid that. It's not the end of the world, but just know sometimes it'll shift on you. And so sometimes when you make the bag, sometimes you see the wrinkles and you're like, how did it get wrinkled? Well, it got wrinkled because the glue is not meant to be permanent. It's holding it in place until you do the next thing. Now, of course, we're gonna sew, so it's gonna keep things in place. It shouldn't sag too much, but just know that sometimes it could, and that's why people like to do quilting on it. So you could absolutely do some form of meandering. You could just sew straight lines. You could do a crosshatch and then go in the other direction using your walking foot, but we're gonna leave this as is. Okay, so then the front of the bag will be done. So I'm going to go back here because did I remember what I did? 16 by a little less than 18. My block is 19. Okay, so we are going to start off with one side using our ruler to line it up. Let's turn this around. 16 by 19, 16 by 18, a little less than 18. And we'll straighten them out together to make sure that everything is good. Okay, we'll take that off. And again, like I don't know where Walmart got these from, but see how easy that comes off? Because these are really thick. Okay, 16, we got 4. And then we will a little short of 18, 16, this is that end. So I'm just using my cutting board as a guide and just cutting everything straight. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tapping the screen. We are already at 11.3. Thank you so much. Okay, and then 3 plus 19 plus 16 is 19. Okay. So the front and the back are done. We're going to line those two up together. Totally up to you what you do from here. So if you choose from here, let me just do some clips. Okay. Just to hold those in place. My Merry Christmas, you know, gotta check, because let me tell you who will have it upside down. I can leave this so that it's a straight tote bag, or I can cut out and box the corners. That's totally up to you. I can go all the way around it, look at it, and then decide to box the corners, but remember, you don't have much room to block because of how big I made this. So that is something to take into consideration if you want box corners. So we're just gonna go all the way around this on 3 sides. This is typical of a lot of tote patterns, so you can find a lot of free tote patterns online, or you may already have some. Made for Mermaids has the Tuesday tote that is made a similar way. Tuesday tote does box their corners, but again, it is totally up to you whether you want to box them. Now, somebody needs to remember that she is going to do handles. So we'll put the whole thing together and we'll have handles. Okay, get down to where I need to pivot and turn. Check my foot. I am using that foot as a guide. And then I am going to do, let me check again, because like I said, you know I can mess up. And then let's do this. So I'm just going all the way around. Hey, Marvin. Okay. And we'll come around. And we'll do the back side. The thing, they tell you to do this, but you're supposed to do this, but this is how I do this. And then you're supposed to do this, but this is how I do it. Yeah, so I will tell you what you should do, and then I'm gonna tell you what I do. Okay. So some people, after they stitch all the way around, my seam allowance I did was a little bit more than 1/4 inch, it's almost about 1/2 inch. Hey, Livette, how are you? So some people will cut off the excess. I don't do that. Some people will will turn this in and press it. I don't do that. Okay. What I do is I will come to the corners to reduce the bulk. Do I have my other scissors? Because I'm playing games. You know. Okay, I found my other rotary cutter. Those are the scissors. Okay, here they are. They're on the table. So I'm going to come here, cut that off. Now, in this, right close to the seam, I'm just going to cut this at an angle to reduce the bulk that's going to come into that corner. You don't want to get real close to the seam because you don't want your stitches to come out, but you just want to get close enough, cut your corner off, and then get real close in there just to take a little ease out of that so that you don't have a lot of, it reduces the bulk. Okay, so for the sake of argument, all the way like 2 feet away is my 2 feet away is my what do you call it, my chopstick. So I'm just using my finger to press those in. And just so that you can see, because I know that we're all at different stages at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night for where we are. But you can see this is, and of course I'm going to push these out a little bit more, but this is the outside of the bag. Okay, so the outside is done. I need to, again, push those out a little bit more. I will push those out. Okay, so again, just before I move on, this is an orphan block. So I used an orphan block from my stash. This is something that somebody else made me. I did not make this. I absolutely got this from somebody, and I am using it because I couldn't use it in a quilt. I didn't see how it was going to be used, but I can absolutely use it as a tote bag, and I love it for that moment. I think the black for this really helps it to pop. Okay, so of course we know we have our inside that we need, and I have all sorts of different fabric that I'm telling you what I'm going to go with. 18 by 16. Got to remind myself of some things. I have this fabric. Okay. My attitude is whatever is on the inside, most people aren't going to see anyway. And I don't believe in using like my good stuff for the inside. So you could use waterproof canvas if you choose. Waterproof canvas would give this a more stable inside. It would keep it from, like, if it gets water in it or whatever else, you could kind of wipe it clean. It doesn't get as mucky on the inside. I'm okay. So I'm just going to use this. You can choose to add a stabilizer to it, so SF101 if you choose. I'm going to leave this as is. So I'm just going to cut 2 pieces, 18 by 16. So that I can put this on the inside. And then I will slide over for a second that I didn't do before. I will get my chopstick, and I will get my, it'll come to me in a minute. And I will get my webbing for the handles, because we're not making handles. Back in the day when I started a lot of my quilting projects, I absolutely made handles. What I found over time, when I made my handles, because I put too much crap in my bags, the handles over time began to break up. And so one way to avoid that is to use webbing. So I prefer the webbing, but I do like long handles. So I'm just trying to get this to be nice and straight. Let's see, this is 1, 10, 11. So I need 16. Okay, get up for a second, girl, and get that puzzle piece. Nope. Yep, there we go. Okay. Okay. So when you hear stories about educators who take kids on trips, take their babies on a trip. And they say that their children were the worst behaved. I'm here to tell you, my students today were the blank.com. They were absolutely fabulous. I was like, yes, when's the next trip? Very rarely do I have problems when I take students on trips because I threaten them before we go. Because I need them to understand what's gonna happen if you try to embarrass me. So, I mean, of course, it was a trip that they wanted to go on, and people were mad at me because I cut them off. Because I was like, no, did you last minute paying for something? No, you can't go. But like, it was a free day from school. I said, I don't understand. You get to come to school and go skating. Tell me what is better than that? So your mama gets to drop you off at school and you get to go on a skating trip all day. Hang out with your friends. You don't have to do any schoolwork. Nobody's gonna be fussing at you unless you're doing something wrong. And you get to skate. I said, I don't understand why I should have, everybody in the school should have went. When I was like, and I told students, I said, you got not because you asked not. Don't tell me that, oh, I didn't have the money, because you could have gone on a trip. But unfortunately, because you didn't say anything, you couldn't go. But they were so well behaved. I was so proud of them. So we had a great time. Like I said, now I don't know. Did I say I almost fell? I fell once. And I didn't fall like hard. One of the students was skating crooked. You messing up my flow. It had been about 20 years since I had skated. And I was like, you in the way. So she kept going on an angle, and the next thing I know, I was going on an angle. Yeah. And we collided. Well, no, I didn't collide. I missed her. And so because I missed her, I ended up falling. Okay, so we're just going to take the binding. I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? We're going to take the lining, and we're going to do the same stitch around. Some people will suggest that wherever the top is, to kind of angle it out just a little bit, because then it will fit into the bag a little bit more snug. Again, I'm not boxing my corners on this, but you can absolutely box your corners if you choose. I would have needed a little bit more, space down at the bottom. To do that, I'm okay with the corner not being boxed. And again, this is a great way whether you are doing a quilt as you go. So we used an orphan block to make the front of it, and then we just used a regular piece of fabric for the back. You could have used two regular pieces of fabric for the front and the back, or you could have done something similar to a quilt as you go, where you could have added all the pieces and then it would have been quilted all at the same time. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to cut those corners. Now, I will also say that in some cases you can make a decision Whether you want to birth it through the bottom of the lining, the side of the lining, the top of the lining, that's up to you. You could also take it and place it on the inside and then just, you know, turn stuff under and then top stitch it. It's up to you to decide how you want that to go. I'm going to place this inside of here. Oh, I'm going to get my two things that I need, which are my webbing and my chopstick. So my chopstick is going to go in here and help me to get that corner a little bit better because, yeah, we didn't pop that out the way that it should have been. And this is why people like box corners. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Why does that look so black? Now, that's the way she had the, I could have trimmed this up a little bit more. She didn't really trim up she did like a paper piecing method with this, and she didn't really trim that up well. That's fine. I ain't even mad. Okay. So we're gonna place the outer bag on the inner bag. Gonna stuff that down nice and neatly, and we're gonna line our seams up. And we're gonna clip. And I'm gonna go all the way around, and then I'll worry about my straps once I finish this. So they said that in school it was like a ghost town today because half the students either didn't come to school because they knew that their friends were going on a trip, or they were on a trip. And like I said, I absolutely loved it. I usually don't go on a lot of trips with the students because usually I'm in the building, because traditionally the ones that misbehave don't get to go on the trips. So this was their one pass where everybody got to go regardless of your behavior. Now the big thing is that you got to get past the big kahunas. And so the big kahunas, you know, are those people who deal with the discipline. And so if you're going with me and you can, you know, and I got you, we ain't gonna have no problems anyway. Okay. So have everything all nice and lined up so that when I sew on top of this, so now I need to determine my straps, because I'm going to add these as straps. I'm not making them. Straps are for the individual. So if you are like me and you don't like to hold your bag like this, and you would prefer to hold your bag like this, yes, it was, Shamir, it was an easy day. It was easy. It was easy for them daggone teachers back at the school. I can have it here. So I can determine where I want this, depending on how I want it to hang. And that's how long the straps are going to be. So some people know what size their straps are, and then they'll absolutely make the straps that length. I like to kind of measure to see where they're going to be, and then I can get it right to that length and then cut. But it was an easy, pleasant day. This is folded in half. So I did 2 folded in half, which means now I can just cut that in half here. So I have 2 straps the same size. So they, look, when we texted them and told them we were on our way back, they were like, why? I was like, look, y'all got 4 hours of a break from us. I do like to burn my ends just to make sure that they don't fray on me and come apart. I was like, we left at like 9:30 and we didn't come home. We didn't come back to school until 2:30. Like, y'all got a break. And again, these were like, some of these kids, they were not the most well behaved. They were for me, but they're not the most well behaved in school. So if they're not the most well behaved, y'all had it easy. Because what you hit, well, no, because even the well behaved ones were the ones that went. But you know, you just didn't have that many left. Make sure that I'm folding these up because I can twist the handle, and then I'm opening them up so that they're going in the direction that I want them to go into. Okay. I like to use my mat because I can determine where the centers are to have my straps go where I want them to go. So if I bring this in 4 and bring this in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 and no, 16. 10 and 16. Do I want 4? Do I want 3? I'll do 17 and 9. So 17 and 9. I'm going to get this exactly where I want it to go. 17, and I got to clip at 9. So I'm going to move the clip down. And then I am going to remove these clips because I'm going to place this in at 17. And I could mark, right? But you know I'm not doing it. So I'm going in at 17. And I'm gonna clip. And because I don't trust myself, I'm gonna clip again. And then I'm going to go in at 9. And I'm going to push that side in. And I'm going to clip. And because I don't trust myself, I'm going to clip again. And I can stuff the rest of that in there. And I can clip just to kind of put those together. And again, it's up to you. And I think I am going to do that. And I'll show you what I'm going to do. Because I'm going to just go around the whole thing. So I've already sealed this up. But I'm just going to break a stitch on the side. And then birth it through the side. We're going to flip it over. Now we already have these here for where I have the other straps. So all I have to do is match them up. Again, I'm going to take this, make sure it's not twisted. Because you know, I can twist it. And it looks like that's what I did. Excuse me. And we're going to place this on the inside. We'll open these up. And I'm going to place these on the inside without twisting them. And I'm just going to clip temporarily and temporarily. And how much you want to bet? I probably twisted one of them. Okay. So we are going to find those here. And we're going to clip. And we're going to clip. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to line this up with the other one. And we're going to clip, oops, make sure it gets straight. And then we're going to clip and we're going to clip, okay? And the great thing is that this is almost done. So this is not a long project. Okay, I will break that seam in a minute. I'm going to come back to my machine and I am going to do a 1/2 inch stitch. It'd be nice if I did a true 1/2 inch. My clips are close. I can feel my straps. So I'm making sure that my fingers are on the straps as I begin to release some of the clips. That way it won't shift on me. And when I run over that, I'm gonna run back, run over it again, run back a little bit more, and then I'm going to continue down the path. And that's just to kind of reinforce it in place. Okay, get over those corners. Might be a little bit of a challenge. Take your time. Coming back over those straps. I'm going to go back it up and come back over. And again, you can do your straps the way you want. So this is the way I do this one, but you can absolutely change the straps out so that they go all the way up and down the bag. That's up to you. They can come out of the way I did it here. That is totally up to you how you want to do it. Okay, and it would be nice if when I'm adjusting this, I made sure the needle was down, but that would be too much like common sense. Okay, run back over. Again, I'm just back stitching to make sure that everything lines up the way that it needs to. Stopped and birthed it from the top. I changed my mind, which is fine. That's what seam rippers are for. And I decided to birth it through the side. Okay, so everything is there. Let's trim off these little strays. Not that anybody's gonna see them. Okay, if you feel some kind of way, you can cut your batting off. That's up to you. It only when you turn it under, it's going to be such a thick layer of batting. So some people will trim the batting off of it. Again, that's up to you. If you trim the batting off, you want to make sure that you lift it away from the fabric, or you're just cutting that fabric piece a little bit shorter. That's up to you. You don't want to go so close to the edge, but you can relieve some of the bulk if you choose. But you can cut that right on out if that's what you prefer and go all the way along. That's up to you. Okay. I need to birth this out, and I'm going to show you what I do. If I change my mind, which is what I did, I'm going to mark a distance. I have fleece in here, for batting. And I need to be able to get it through the hole. So I want that hole to be big enough to get it through. Hey, Miss Belinda. So what I'm going to do, because it's going to, let me see how I say this. After I birth it, I'm going to turn around and still stitch it. So this isn't really going to matter. What I'm trying to do is to keep the stitches from popping. So I'm just going to do a couple back tacks at each one of those clips, right on the seam, so that when I break my thread, it won't break the seams more than it has to. Okay. So now, either with my seam ripper or in this case my snips, I'm just going to lift up those seams, those threads in between those two little tacks that I added. And if I were not that lazy to get up and go back over there, I would just use my seam ripper, but I'm just going to take out those stitches, and they're going to come out a little bit easier. I'm just making sure that I pull it out correctly. Okay. Oops. Broke that a little bit before I wanted to. Okay, there we go. Bam, bam. Okay. So here we go. We did it on the side. So typically what you would do, right? You would stitch down, stop, start back up again, and stitch all the way around. I just broke it open because it was easier to pull it through the side than it was to pull it from the top. It'll make it a little bit cleaner. So now I'm gonna birth this and pull this through. And again, I made a big enough hole that this should not take long to do at all. The last thing I want to do is struggle. The last thing I want to do is break seams. And not that it's the end of the world, but it just makes it a little bit more difficult to do the fixing of it if you do it that way. Okay, we already clipped those corners. Maybe I'll be nice and give this to one of my kids tomorrow. I don't know. You know, I'll decide if I like them that much. Okay. And I'm going to do that one. And we're going to do that one. Okay. Actually, you don't even need to poke them in because, duh, it's going to sit in the lining. So that was smart. Okay. So after it's pushed in, after it's pulled out, we're going to take this and sew up that side. If I cared, I would use black thread. I don't care, so we're still going to use white. So we have this, and we're just going to stitch that up. I'm going to start a little bit above where the stitches are closed. Just to kind of tack it in place. Because of the way this is turned in, it's already folded. I want to get close to the edge, but not so close that the seam will come undone. It's on the inside, and if anybody's looking that close, they're inspecting, and they're not that grateful. Stitch to make sure everything stays in place, and then I can clip, and then we'll clip these. Cool beans. I got threads out here that I don't know why I have out here. We'll get rid of those. And then we will push this on the inside. And then we'll push those little corners back out that I don't know why I pushed in the first place. Oops. Now there is one thing that I will do, because I just think it'll look tacky any other way, is I will top stitch it some black. I didn't mind using the white, so I can roll this down with my fingers as I'm dropping all the clips on the floor. Thank you. And again, this is nothing more than using a, now, and you can make your own block. So this could be, if you're a bag girl or bag guy and you are, you know, looking to add something different to the front of the bag. So rather than just having it plain, the great thing about this is that you can take any block, any size, and you can use it to create the front of that bag. It would have been nice to put a bag tag, to put a tag in this, wouldn't it? Too much like right to have your tags out, but that's okay, because we're gonna make it work. And not like tags on everything else you gave away. Okay, so we're just rolling that around and holding that down. And we will use black thread, so I will pull out the black thread for this, just because I think that that top stitch will look better as black than it will as a as white. So some things, like on the inside of a project, I'm not as worried about. Sometimes I look at something and I'm like, you know what? It just makes sense to do it right. Okay. So it has the straps. If, you know, you wanted to press it down, you could. The inside is in there. What gave away? When I gave away a quilt, I like to make a bag to coordinate the fabric to place it in. That's cool. Yes, Shamir, I had black. It required me to like pull over a couple inches to get it. That's all. So Shamir, right? I have the typical colors for quilting for me are white, beige, gray, and black. So if I don't have anything else, I'm gonna have a black bobbin. I have black thread. But did I use it for what I needed to use it for? No, I used white. Okay, now we'll tell you what I don't feel like going upstairs to get that black bobbin, so we're gonna use that black black spool. So we're gonna use that black bobbin because it's almost out, and I prefer full bobbins anyway. Okay, so I'll put that in there. Shamir, why are you coming for me? I was actually talking about you earlier. We were driving home from work, well, from an event, and we were coming down, we were going up East River Drive, and I was telling my coworker, I was like, my friend Shamir came to visit me. Well, she came to visit Black Sewing Network, and I kidnapped her, made her go out all around town with me, and I told her about the location where I told you to take pictures and how you had the pleasure of having the ducks. I ain't seen the ducks since, but Okay, so I like to take this off just because it's easier for me. And I am going to place this here, and I'm just going to stitch all the way around just to hold that in place. You don't have to, but because I'm using an ugly lining, I'm preferring to stitch that in place. I said I didn't see a duck. I said it was like they knew Shamir was there, and them ducks came out. They were like, oh, the goddess is here. Them joints don't come out for me. Okay, we kind of didn't do that right, but we're gonna make it work. What was I? Okay, and we're just taking our time going all the way around, because if I can help it, I'm trying to hide as much of that ugly fabric as I can. And it's not ugly fabric, it's just the fabric that I don't necessarily want to peek through on that side. I don't know if Carmen's still here, so Carmen, I don't know if Carmen knew that duck story. Like, who does that? Because you ain't seen no pictures with Carmen with no ducks. Them darn ducks came out for Shamir. It was like they knew to come out the water like you know what? Like a siren. That's how them ducks came out. Like the siren was calling them. Okay. And we're just going all the way around, and again, I want to stay close to the edge. I'm taking my time. And it is going through a lot of layers. So my fleece is doubled at this point. So I do want to make sure that when I'm going through here, that I'm not forcing it to roll back the wrong way, and that I can keep it even as possible. Okay, and we're almost all the way around, and once we've done this top stitch, this is done. Feel the thread, make sure that look, because I was only a little bit on that bobbin, and I want to make sure that I don't run out. That would defeat the laziness of my purpose. Okay, we're going under the next biggest hump, and again, it's going through a whole bunch of layers. So we're going to take our time. And because you didn't pay attention to the handles the way you were supposed to, they are wrapping all around, but that's okay. I'm going to make it work. Hair twisted all around because I wasn't paying attention. Okay, but we're almost there. Let me clip those end threads because I can go right there. I've got about 2 more inches to go. But again, I didn't use what I would like to call a true orphan block, because I used some blocks that I had left over from a block swap that I have done nothing with. And I think in the beginning I showed you that those blocks were embroidered 2011. So I have had these blocks in my stash since 2011. It was an online group on the Book of Faces, and we made blocks and exchanged them, and I like loved them, some of them, and some of them I was like, yeah, I love it, but it wasn't working for what I wanted to do with them. And so they kind of sat until I came up with a purpose. And as I came up with purposes to make a quilt, pull some out, do whatever I had to do, then that's how I was able to get those done. What did I do? Ooh, okay. So the inside is done and the outside is done. And now my tote is ready for me to go shopping. And like I said, it is the length that I like. Let me go there because I like to throw it over my shoulder. But here is the finished tote. Thank you, love. I appreciate it. So again, this is it's not a bad sew. It takes me longer to talk than it takes me to do this. So the orphan block I already had. We stitched the orphan block to the fleece. Thank you. So we stitched this to fusible fleece. We then did some quilt as you go to add the borders around it. So just pressing this down to the fusible fleece and then adding our borders to box this out. Once we did that, then I did go in and do some stitching in the ditch just to quilt this down. Once this was quilted down around the reds in particular, just to kind of hold it in place, then I worked on the back. And so the back is just pressed, and you can kind of see it's a little bumpy. Nobody's gonna notice that other than the fact that I pointed it out, but it's a little bumpy, and that's just because this was that fusible fleece that I used. You could quilt this. My thing is that for the most part, they're going to see this. They're not going to see this. So, I mean, that's up to you whether you wanted to quilt it or not. You could absolutely use stabilizer. You don't have to use fleece. Fleece just kind of gives it a more softer feel, and in some cases makes it a little bit more sturdier. I did not box the bottoms of these corners. Thank you. You could absolutely box the bottoms of the corners. You could have boxed them just a little bit. That will allow this to stand. If the corners were boxed, you could go back in and box them, if you feel some kind of way. But this could be boxed. You do not need a pattern for this. You decide how big you want your bag to be. So you can take a pattern, a free pattern, use that. But you could also use a tote bag that you already have in your stash. Take that tote bag, use that as your guide, measure it. Add a 1/2 inch on either side. So what's that? An extra inch. So if your tote bag is 16 inches wide, that means you need 17 inches. If your tote bag is 18 inches tall, that means you need 19 inches. So you can make the dimensions as big or as small as you want it to be for your bag or for the bag that you're going to give as gifts. So I can absolutely, like I said, 1.5 hours, and I really could have done this in an hour if I wasn't online talking. So I could absolutely make bags for everybody in my school, in my family, in my church mothers, whoever I want to make bags for the holidays, and use up all of my orphan scraps, my orphan blocks. You can also do it as a quilt as you go. There are plenty of ways to do this. So, like I said, it's a quick and easy sew. It's a great thing to use for the holidays, either for yourself when you're shopping or to use it for someone else. So thank you so much for joining me for making this quilted bag. easy sew from, from something that you have in your stash, something that you have as scraps that's laying around your house, and you can absolutely make this in under 2 hours. Again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Carmen, for pushing me, because that meant I had to go into my stash to find this block. So I found this block, and I actually used it. And like I said, I need to use some of the other blocks I found. But we'll actually try to make some more bags. Thank you, Carmen. And, maybe next time I'll do it on YouTube. But anyway, thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thank you for all of the likes. Thank you for all of the heart me's and everything else. I appreciate you, and the roses. I think I got everything. Thank you for joining me. And I am now, after skating with the kids today, I'm going to bed. So I'm getting ready, because I don't know how I'm going to wake up in the morning, because I might be hurting all over. So thank you again. Have a good one. Happy and Merry Christmas. Don't forget, 12 Days of Blackness. We have another one tomorrow, Wednesday. I think it's Carmen. And Carmen is making slippers. So check out Carmen. She's going to be on YouTube. But check her out. She's going to be on YouTube making slippers. Have a good one.